Well, President Biden is still considering his nominee for the Supreme Court justice to replace Stephen Breyer. What will his choice mean for the future of Roe versus Wade? Joining us to discuss that, Cecile Richards. She's the former president of Planned Parenthood and current co-chair of American Bridge 21st Century. That's a political action committee that supports Democratic candidates around the country. Cecile, welcome. And first, let's talk about what's happening at the Supreme Court. So they have sent all kinds of very, very direct signals. The conservative-leaning majority seems determined not just to chip away at Roe versus Wade, but to gut it, if not outright overturn it. That's clear from what they've said. Justice Breyer was a reliably liberal vote. He'll be a part of the decision on this key case out of Mississippi. He's expected to be replaced, though, with another liberal justice. So what does the loss of Justice Breyer on the Supreme Court mean, do you think, on Roe versus Wade?
Well, Terry, you're exactly right. Justice Breyer has been such an important leader on women's rights and a number of other important issues. His replacement, I feel confident, will also be a supporter of women's rights. But of course, the problem is this is a Supreme Court that's really now dominated by the three justices that were appointed by Donald Trump and in a very partisan way. We not only have this Mississippi case, which, as you said, has been heard, will be decided, and really will I think, show us the fate of Roe versus Wade, a right that people have had in this country for nearly 50 years. But I think even more upsetting about this Supreme Court is that a current abortion ban that's in effect in Texas, my home state, has been in effect now for more than 5 months. It prohibits all access to safe and legal abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy. And this court has refused to take any action. And I think that is unfortunately an indication of how little they respect the rule of law and they respect the judicial precedent of Roe versus Wade.
So of the short list names that you've been floated so far, would you be satisfied with any of them from the perspective of defense of reproductive rights based on judicial philosophy or record?
Absolutely. I think all the names that have been discussed are such distinguished jurists. And of course, as we all know, it's a really important an appointment. The thought that finally, after all these years, we will have a Black woman on the Supreme Court, I think just says so much about President Biden's commitment to having a court that actually represents the people of this country. One of the things that's really important, I think, Kira, that people, I think most people know, is that the right to make your own decisions about pregnancy, which is, of course, the right that Roe established, not only has it been the law of the land now for nearly 50 years, it's supported by people of all parties in this country. And unfortunately, I feel like the Republican Party, as opposed to focusing on the issues that people care about, that women care about, building our economy, getting through this COVID crisis, instead have been completely focused on eliminating a really important right that people have to make their own decisions about their health care. Unfortunately, too, even with the retirement of Justice Breyer and this new Supreme Court justice, the balance, unfortunately, seems to be against us when it comes to women's rights.
And Cecile, if I could ask you to put on your political hat right now. You're in the political trenches. Early primary voting in the state of Texas begins in less than 2 weeks. The midterms are basically upon us. How do you read the issue of reproductive rights in this cycle that has long been something that has driven Republicans to the polls? They've stoked their side's arguments and the interests on their sides. Do you think Democratic voters who have never, it seems, really taken to heart the possibility that reproductive rights could be lost for millions of American women across the country, do you think it's a driver of turnout this year? How do you read that?
Absolutely. And you're right. This is a right. Since it's a right we've had for 50 years, for many voters, they didn't think this was something that was at risk. And now with the actions of the Supreme Court, this obsession, now we're seeing, of course, Republican governors all across the country rushing to pass laws that would outlaw abortion in their own states in anticipation of the Supreme Court decision. It really has heightened the awareness not only of Democratic voters, but of independent and Republican voters too. Because of course, the right to make your own decisions about your pregnancy is not a partisan issue. This is an issue that affects all people, all women. And I do think it's going to be, particularly with this case coming down from the Supreme Court, if they should overturn the right under the underpinning of Roe versus Wade, this is going to be seismic. And I do think it's going to animate voters. And I think of a whole generation of young voters who never thought they would live in a world in which the government was making decisions about pregnancy rather than themselves. So I think it's going to be a highly motivating issue. And of course, at American Bridge, we're working on it.
Well, let's stay on that, Cecile, that issue. In the Virginia governor's race this fall, as you know, candidate Terry McAuliffe tried to make Roe and abortion rights a campaign issue, and it didn't get much traction. He lost that race. So where in the country do you think the abortion issue will be front and center this midterm season, and what races are you watching?
Sure. I mean, look, if we're looking across the country now, that not only, again, Mississippi, the Mississippi case will be decided, Texas, but now, because we're going into state legislative sessions in the sort of the overhang of this Supreme Court decision, we are seeing now Republican governors and legislatures making this their highest priority, to pass bans in their states against access to safe and legal abortion. I think it's just now sinking in for voters, and particularly women voters, that this is what the Republican Party is prioritizing. And it is, and in our own polling, it's interesting. It shows that it is the single issue that galvanizes women voters, that they realize how far out of step the Republican Party is with the mainstream of America. So I do think it's going to be a really important issue. When voters want, the candidates, and they want government to focus on the economy, and instead the Republicans are focused on ending access to safe and legal abortion, it says a lot about where the party is, and I think it says a lot about that the Republican Party just frankly has the wrong priority.
It'll be a new political landscape for sure if the Supreme Court takes that fateful step. Cecile Richards, thanks for being with us.
Good to see you. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.